So hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I am going to write a Python program, which will help you convert a Reddit post into a video like this. And then you can upload this to YouTube and make millions. So without a further ado, let's start coding, and I will explain you everything. Now you understand the basics. And you understand what we are going to do today. Now let's start with the coding. The first file we are going to work on is reddit.py. This Python file is designed to retrieve content from the Reddit website and extract relevant information from posts and comments, which can be used to create videos. The program uses several modules to interact with the Reddit API and retrieve content from a specified subreddit. The extracted content is then processed and stored in a video script object. The program can be used to automatically select top posts, or prompt the user to select a post to extract content from. Overall, this program appears to be a tool to automate the creation of videos based on popular content from the Reddit website. This line imports the OS module, which provides a way to interact with the operating system. This line imports the re module, which provides support for regular expressions in Python. This line imports the pro module, which provides a Python interface to the Reddit API. This line imports a custom module called markdown_to_text, which contains a single function called markdown_to_text. This function converts a markdown formatted string to plain text. This line imports the time module, which provides various time-related functions. This line imports the video script class from the video script module. This class represents a script for a video. This line imports the config parser module, which provides a way to read configuration files in the ini file format. This line creates a new config parser object called config. This object provides methods for reading and writing configuration files in the ini file format. This line reads the config.ini file and populates the config object with the configuration data. This line retrieves the value of the client_ID key from the Reddit section of the configuration file and assigns it to the client_ID variable. This line retrieves the value of the client_secret key from the Reddit section of the configuration file and assigns it to the client_secret variable. This line retrieves the value of the user_agent key from the Reddit section of the configuration file and assigns it to the user_agent variable. This line retrieves the value of the subreddit key from the Reddit section of the configuration file and assigns it to the subreddit variable. This line calls a private function called __getReddit to authenticate with the Reddit API and obtain a Reddit instance, which represents a connection to the Reddit API. This line calls a private function called __getExisting post IDs to retrieve a list of the existing post IDs of previously processed videos from the output.dir directory. This line records the current time in seconds since the Unix epoch using the time.time function and converts it to an integer. This line sets the autoselect variable to true if post option count is equal to 0, indicating that the function should automatically select the top post. This line creates an empty list called posts to store the selected posts. This line starts a for loop that iterates over the top posts of the specified subreddit, filtered by posts from the past day, time_filter equals day, and limited to post option count *3 posts. This line checks if the current post has already been processed by checking if its ID is in the existing post IDs list, or if it is marked as NSFW, submission.over_18. If either condition is true, the post is skipped. This line calculates the number of hours since the current post was submitted and assigns it to the hours ago posted variable. This line prints the title, score, and age, in hours, of the current post to the console, along with its index in the posts list. This line adds the current post to the posts list. This line checks if autoselect is true, indicating that the function should automatically select the top post, or if the number of selected posts is greater than or equal to post option count. If either condition is true, the loop is exited. This line checks if autoselect is true. If autoselect is true, this line calls a private function called __get content from post to download and process the content of the top post in the posts list and returns the resulting video script object. If autoselect is not true, this line executes the following block of code. This line prompts the user to enter an integer value and assigns the value to the post selection variable. This value represents the index of the post in the posts list that the user wants to select. This line retrieves the post from the posts list at the index specified by the user and assigns it to the selected post variable. This line calls a private function called __get content from post to download and process the content of the selected post and returns the resulting video script object. This line defines the function getContent from ID, which takes two parameters, output dir and submission ID. The return type of this function is video script. This line calls a private function __getReddit, which presumably returns an authenticated Reddit API instance and assigns it to the variable Reddit. This line calls another private function __getExisting post IDs, output dir, passing the output dir as an argument. This function likely returns a list of existing post IDs that have been previously processed, which is then assigned to the variable existing post IDs. This line checks if the given submission ID is already in the list of existing post IDs. If the submission ID exists in the list, this line prints a message indicating that the video already exists. This line exits the program if the video already exists, preventing further processing. This line starts a try-except block to handle potential errors. Within the try block, this line retrieves the Reddit submission object with the given submission ID using the authenticated Reddit API instance. If an exception occurs, example, the submission is not found, the code execution moves to the except block. This line prints an error message indicating that the submission with the specified ID was not found. This line exits the program if the submission was not found, preventing further processing. This line calls a private function __get content from post, submission, and returns its result. The function likely processes the Reddit submission and returns a video script object containing the extracted content. This line defines the private function __getReddit, which takes no arguments. This line starts the return statement, creating a new instance of the Reddit class. This line sets the client _ID parameter for the Reddit class. Client _ID is a constant that holds the unique identifier of your registered Reddit application. This line sets the client _secret parameter for the Reddit class. Client _secret is a constant that holds the secret key of your registered Reddit application. This line sets the user _agent parameter for the Reddit class. User _agent is a constant that holds a user agent string, which should provide information about your application and should follow Reddit's user agent guidelines. This line closes the Reddit constructor. In summary, the __getReddit function creates a new instance of the Reddit class using the specified client _ID, client _secret, and user _agent. This instance represents a connection to the Reddit API and is used to make requests to retrieve and process Reddit data. This line defines the private function __get content from post, which takes a single parameter submission. The return type of this function is video script. This line initializes a new video script object using the submission's URL, title, and ID, and assigns it to the variable content. This line prints a message indicating that a video is being created for the given post displaying the post title. This line prints the URL of the submission. This line initializes a variable failed attempts with the value 0, which will be used to count the number of failed attempts to a comment scenes. This line starts a loop that iterates over each comment in the submission's comments. This line calls the add comment scene method of the content object, passing the comment's body after converting it from Markdown to text and the comment's ID. If the add comment scene method returns true, it means that the comment scene could not be added, so the code enters the if block. If the previous line returns true, this line increments the failed attempts counter by 1. This line checks if any of the following conditions are met. The content object can be quickly finished, or there have been more than 2 failed attempts, and the content object can be finished. If either condition is met, the code enters the if block. If the conditions in the previous line are met, this line breaks out of the loop, stopping the iteration over the comments. This line returns the content object, which is an instance of the video script class containing the process submission data. I'm sure anyone knowledgeable on Python hates this. I had some weird issues, and frankly didn't care to troubleshoot. It works though. Markdown underscore to underscore text.py. Now we will start working on understanding Markdown file. This program is a Python function called markdown underscore to underscore text that takes a string input in Markdown format, converts it to HTML, removes any code snippets or strike-throughs from the HTML, and then extracts the plaintext content from the HTML using the Beautiful Soup library. The resulting plaintext content is returned as output from the function. This line imports the Beautiful Soup class from the BS4 module, which provides a way to parse and navigate HTML and XML documents. This line imports the Markdown function from the Markdown module, which converts Markdown formatted text to HTML. This line imports the re module, which provides support for regular expressions in Python. MD-HTML-text since Beautiful Soup can extract text cleanly. This line uses the Markdown function to convert the input Markdown underscore string to HTML and assigns the resulting HTML string to the HTML variable. This line uses the resub function to remove any code snippets, text enclosed in pre and /pre tags from the HTML string. The resulting string is assigned back to the HTML variable. This line uses the resub function to remove any inline code blocks, text enclosed in code and /code tags from the HTML string. The resulting string is assigned back to the HTML variable. This line uses the resub function to remove any strike-throughs, text enclosed in characters from the HTML string. The resulting string is assigned back to the HTML variable. Extracting the text. This line uses the Beautiful Soup function from the BS4 module to parse the HTML string and create a Beautiful Soup object called soup. This object represents the HTML document as a tree of nested tags. This line uses the findAll method of the soup object to find all text nodes in the HTML document and concatenates them into a single string. The resulting string is assigned to the text variable. This line returns the text variable, which contains the plaintext content of the original Markdown string. Now we will start working on screenshot.py. This program automates the process of taking screenshots of a video script and its associated comment frames using Selenium WebDriver. This line imports the WebDriver module from the Selenium package. The WebDriver module provides a way to interact with web browsers and automate browser actions. This line imports the by class from the selenium.webdriver.common package. The by class defines locator strategies for finding elements within a web page, such as by ID, name, class name, tag name, CSS selector, or XPath. This line imports the WebDriver wait class from the selenium.webdriver.support.ui package. The WebDriver wait class provides a way to wait for a certain condition to occur before proceeding with code execution, such as waiting for an element to become visible or clickable. This line imports the expected_conditions module from the selenium.webdriver.support package and aliases it as EC. The expected_conditions module contains a set of predefined conditions that can be used with WebDriver wait to wait for specific events or states. This line sets the screenshot.dir variable to the string screenshots. This variable presumably defines the directory where screenshots will be saved. This line sets the screen width variable to the integer 400. This variable likely defines the width of the browser window, or the width of the screenshot to be captured. This line sets the screen height variable to the integer 800. This variable likely defines the height of the browser window, or the height of the screenshot to be captured. This line defines the getPostScreenshots function, which takes two parameters: file prefix, a string used as a prefix for the screenshot file names, and script, an instance of the video script class. This line prints a message indicating that the function is taking screenshots. This line calls the private function __setup driver with the script.url as its argument. The function likely initializes the Selenium WebDriver and navigates to the specified URL. The function returns two objects: driver, the WebDriver instance, and wait, a WebDriver wait instance used for waiting for specific conditions. This line calls the private function __take screenshot with the arguments file prefix, driver, and wait. The function presumably takes a screenshot of the browser window and saves it with a file name prefixed by file prefix. The resulting file name is assigned to the title_sc file attribute of the script object. This line starts a loop that iterates over each comment frame in the script.frames list. Inside the loop, this line calls the private function __take screenshot with the arguments file prefix, driver, wait, and a formatted string containing the comment ID. The function likely takes a screenshot of the comment and saves it with a file name prefixed by file prefix. The resulting file name is assigned to the screenshot file attribute of the comment frame object. After the loop, this line closes the browser window and terminates the WebDriver session, releasing its resources. This line defines the private function __take screenshot, which takes four parameters: file prefix, a string used as a prefix for the screenshot file names, driver, a WebDriver instance, wait, a WebDriver wait instance, and handle, a string representing the target element, with a default value of post. This line sets the method variable based on the value of handle. If the handle is post, the method is set to by .class_name. Otherwise, the method is set to by .id. This variable will be used to locate the target element on the web page. This line uses the WebDriver wait object to wait for the target element to be present on the page. the presence underscore of underscore element underscore located function from the expected underscore conditions module, aliased as EC, is used to define the condition. The search variable is assigned the reference to the located element. This line executes a JavaScript snippet in the browser window using the WebDriver instance driver. The script focuses the browser window, ensuring that the target element is visible for the screenshot. This line creates a formatted string containing the screenshot file name, which includes the screenshot dir, file prefix, and handle. The string is assigned to the file name variable. This line opens a new file with a specified file name in binary write mode and assigns the file object to the FP variable. This line writes the screenshot of the target element, search, in PNG format to the file object FP. This line closes the file object FP, ensuring that the screenshot data is properly saved to the file. This line returns the file name variable, which contains the full path of the saved screenshot file. In summary, the underscore take screenshot function captures a screenshot of a specific element on a web page using Selenium WebDriver. The function locates the target element based on its handle, focuses the browser window, and saves a screenshot of the element with a specified file name prefix. The function then returns the full path of the saved screenshot file. This line defines the private function underscore setup driver, which takes one parameter, URL, a string representing the target web page URL. This line initializes a new Firefox Options object from the WebDriver module and assigns it to the variable options. The Firefox Options object is used to configure the behavior of the Firefox WebDriver instance. This line sets the headless attribute of the options object to false. When set to true, the Firefox WebDriver would run in headless mode, meaning it would not display a user interface. By setting it to false, the WebDriver will display the browser window. This line sets the enable underscore mobile attribute of the options object to false. This attribute is not a standard Firefox option. It may be an attempt to disable mobile emulation, but the correct attribute to use would be options.set underscore preference. DevTools.responsiveUI.custom width, screen width, and options.set underscore preference. DevTools.responsiveUI.custom height, screen height. This line initializes a new Firefox WebDriver instance using the configured options object and assigns it to the variable driver. This line initializes a new WebDriver wait instance using the driver object and a timeout value of 10 seconds. The wait object will be used for waiting for specific conditions on the web page. This line sets the size of the browser window using the global variables screen width and screen height. This line navigates the WebDriver to the specified URL. This line returns the driver, the initialized WebDriver instance, and wait, the WebDriver wait instance objects. In summary, the underscore setup driver function initializes a Selenium WebDriver instance with specific options, sets the window size, navigates to the provided URL, and returns the WebDriver and WebDriver wait instances for further interaction with the web page. Now let's finish our text-to-speech. We will start working on voiceover.py. This line imports the pyetsx3 library, which is a text-to-speech conversion library in Python. This line defines a global variable voiceover dir, which stores the name of the directory where the voiceover audio files will be saved. This line defines the create_voice_over function, which takes two parameters: file name, a string representing the name of the voiceover file without the extension, and text, a string containing the text that will be converted to speech. This line creates a formatted string that combines the voiceover dir variable, the file name parameter, and the .mp3 extension. The resulting file path is assigned to the file path variable. This line initializes the PyETSX3 text-to-speech engine and assigns the resulting engine object to the engine variable. This line calls the save_to_file method of the engine object, passing the text and file path variables as arguments. This method generates the voiceover audio file for the given text and saves it to the specified file path. This line calls the run_and_wait method of the engine object, which blocks the execution of the script until the voiceover generation and saving process is complete. This line returns the file path variable, which represents the file path of the generated voiceover audio file. Now the second final part. Let's start coding on video CRI.py. This line imports the datetime class from the datetime module. The datetime class provides various functions and attributes to work with dates and times. This line imports the audio file clip class from the MoviePy.editor package. The audio file clip class is part of the MoviePy library, a powerful video editing library in Python. The audio file clip class allows you to create and manipulate audio clips. This line imports the voiceover module. The module is not part of Python's standard library or any well-known library, so it is likely a custom module that generates voiceovers for video projects. This line sets the max_words_pr_comment variable to the integer 100. This variable likely defines the maximum number of words allowed per comment when processing Reddit comments for the video project. This line sets the min_comments_for_finish variable to the integer 4. This variable likely defines the minimum number of comments required to consider the video project complete. This line sets the min_duration variable to the integer 20. This variable likely defines the minimum duration, in seconds, that a video project should have. This line sets the max_duration variable to the integer 58. This variable likely defines the maximum duration, in seconds, that a video project should have. This line defines the video script class. This attribute stores the title of the Reddit post as a string. This attribute stores the file name, without an extension, that will be used for the video file as a string. This attribute stores the file name of the screenshot of the Reddit post title as a string. This attribute stores the URL of the Reddit post as a string. This attribute stores the total duration of the video project as an integer. The duration is calculated based on the sum of the durations of the individual comment scenes. This attribute is a list that stores instances of comment scenes. Example, instances of a comment frame class or similar. Each scene typically contains information like the comment text, the duration of the scene, and the file name of the screenshot of the comment. This line defines the constructor of the video script class, which takes three parameters: URL, a string representing the URL of the Reddit post; title, a string representing the title of the Reddit post; and file ID, a string representing a unique identifier for the video file. This line creates a formatted string containing the current date and the file ID parameter. The datetime.today, .time, %y-%m-%d expression formats the current date as a string in the format YYYYMMDD. The formatted string is assigned to the filename attribute of the video script instance. This line assigns the URL parameter to the URL attribute of the video script instance. This line assigns the title parameter to the title attribute of the video script instance. This line calls the private method __ create voiceover with the arguments title and title. The __ create voiceover method is not shown in this code snippet, but it likely generates a voiceover audio clip for the given text, the Reddit post title in this case. The resulting audio clip is assigned to the title audio clip attribute of the video script instance. This line defines the can-be-finished method, which takes no parameters other than self. The method returns a Boolean value. This line returns a Boolean value based on two conditions. Len self.frames equals min_comments_for_finish. This condition checks whether the frames list of the video script instance has at least the minimum number of comment scenes required for a quick finish, as defined by the min_comments_for_finish variable. It returns true if the condition is met and false otherwise. Self.total duration min_duration. This condition checks whether the total duration of the video project, stored in the total duration attribute, is greater than the minimum required duration defined by the min_duration variable. It returns true if the total duration is greater than the minimum required duration and false otherwise. This line defines the addCommentScene method, which takes two parameters: text, a string representing the comment text, and comment ID, a string representing the comment's unique identifier. The method returns none. This line splits the text parameter into a list of words and calculates the length of the list, i.e., the number of words in the text. The resulting word count is assigned to the word count variable. This line checks if the word count of the comment text is greater than the maximum allowed word count per comment, defined by the max_words_pr_comment variable. If the condition is true, the following line is executed. This line returns true, indicating that adding the comment scene has failed due to exceeding the maximum allowed word count. This line creates a new instance of the screenshot scene class, or a similar class, with the given text and comment ID parameters. The resulting object is assigned to the frame variable. This line calls the private method __ create voiceover with the arguments comment ID and text. The method likely generates a voiceover audio clip for the given text, the comment text in this case. The resulting audio clip is assigned to the audio clip attribute of the frame object. This line checks if the audio clip attribute of the frame object is none. If the condition is true, the following line is executed. This line returns true, indicating that adding the comment scene has failed due to the inability to create the voiceover audio clip. This line adds the frame object to the frames list of the video script instance, effectively adding the comment scene to the video project. This line defines the getDuration method, which takes no parameters other than self. This line returns the value stored in the total duration attribute of the video script instance, which represents the total duration of the video project. This line defines the getFileName method, which takes no parameters other than self. This line returns the value stored in the filename attribute of the video script instance, which represents the file name without an extension that will be used for the video file. This line defines the __create voiceover method, which takes two parameters: name, a string representing a name that will be used as part of the voiceover file name, and text, a string containing the text that will be used for the voiceover. This line calls the create_voice_over function from the voiceover module with the given name and text parameters. The function likely generates a voiceover audio file for the given text and returns its file path. The resulting file path is assigned to the file_path variable. This line creates an audio file clip object using the file_path variable. The audio file clip class is provided by the MoviePy.editor module and represents an audio clip. This line checks if the sum of the current total duration of the video project, stored in the total duration attribute, and the duration of the newly created audio clip is greater than the maximum allowed duration defined by the max_duration variable. If the condition is true, the following line is executed. This line returns none, indicating that creating the voiceover audio clip has failed due to exceeding the maximum allowed duration. This line updates the total duration attribute of the video script instance by adding the duration of the audio clip to it. This line returns the audio clip object, which represents the voiceover audio clip created for the given text. This line defines the screenshot scene class. This line defines a class attribute named text with a default empty string value. This attribute will store the text of the comment. This line defines a class attribute named screenshot file with a default empty string value. This attribute will store the file path of the screenshot taken for the comment. This line defines a class attribute named comment ID with a default empty string value. This attribute will store the unique identifier of the comment. This line defines the constructor method of the screenshot scene class, which takes two parameters: text, a string representing the comment text, and comment ID, a string representing the comment's unique identifier. The constructor returns none. This line assigns the value of the text parameter to the text attribute of the screenshot scene instance. This line assigns the value of the comment ID parameter to the comment ID attribute of the screenshot scene instance. Now let's bring everything together and finish the main.py. This imports everything from the MoviePy.editor library. MoviePy is a Python library used for video editing, cutting, concatenations, title insertions, video compositing, etc. In this project, it will be used to create the YouTube Shorts video. Import Reddit. This imports a custom module called Reddit. This module likely contains functions and classes related to interacting with the Reddit API and fetching data from it. Import Screenshot. This imports another custom module called Screenshot. This module might be responsible for taking screenshots of specific content, like Reddit posts or comments. The time module provides various functions to work with time values, like waiting for a certain amount of time or getting the current time. It might be used for managing time intervals between tasks in the project. The subprocess module allows you to spawn new processes, connect to their input-output/error pipes, and obtain their return codes. It might be used in this project to run external commands or scripts for video processing. The random module is used to generate random numbers. It might be used in this project to add randomness to the video creation process or to select random Reddit posts. The config parser module is used for working with configuration files. It's a way to read and write data from and to configuration files, allowing you to store settings externally from your script. The sys module provides access to some variables used or maintained by the interpreter, and to functions that interact with the interpreter. It might be used for various system-related tasks, like managing command line arguments or exiting the script. This imports the lister function from the OS module, which is used to list all files in a specified directory. This imports the isFile and join functions from the os.path module. isFile is used to check if a given path is a regular file, while join is used to join one or more pathname components into a single pathname string. These functions are often used for file and directory operations. This line imports the config parser module and creates an instance of the config parser class called config. The config parser class is a class for working with configuration files in ini format. This line reads the configuration file config.ini using the read method of the config parser object created in the previous line. This line retrieves the value of the output directory key from the general section of the configuration file and assigns it to the variable output.dir. This line retrieves the current time in seconds since the epoch, January 1st, 1970, using the time.time method, and assigns it to the variable start time. Get script from Reddit. If a post ID is listed, use that. Otherwise, query top posts. This line is an if statement that checks whether the length of the sys.argv list, which contains command line arguments, is equal to 2. If it is, the code inside the if block will be executed. Otherwise, the code inside the else block will be executed. This line calls the getContentFromID method of a Reddit object with 2 arguments, output.dir, which is a directory where output files will be saved, and sys.argv1, which is the second command line argument, assuming there are 2 arguments. This method retrieves the content of a Reddit post with the specified ID and returns a script object, which is assigned to the script variable. This line retrieves the value of the number of posts to select from key from the Reddit section of the configuration file and converts it to an integer using the int function. The integer value is assigned to the variable post option count. This line calls the getContent method of a Reddit object with 2 arguments, output.dir, which is a directory where output files will be saved, and post option count, which is the number of top posts to query from Reddit. This method retrieves the content of the top post from Reddit and returns a script object, which is assigned to the script variable. This line calls the getFilename method of the script object, which returns a file name based on the Reddit post title and the current date and time. The file name is assigned to the file name variable. This line calls the getPostScreenshots method of a screenshot object with 2 arguments, filename, which is the file name of the Reddit post, and script, which is the script object containing the content of the Reddit post. This method creates screenshots of the Reddit post and saves them to the output directory specified in the configuration file. Set up background clip. This line retrieves the value of the background directory key from the General section of the configuration file and assigns it to the variable bgdir. This line retrieves the value of the background file prefix key from the General section of the configuration file and assigns it to the variable bg prefix. This line uses the lister and isFile functions from the OS module to get a list of all the files in the bgdir directory that are files, i.e., not directories. The list comprehension creates a list of file names by iterating over the list of files and selecting only those that are files. This line gets the length of the bg files list, i.e., the number of files in the bgdir directory that are files, and assigns it to the variable bgcount. This line generates a random integer between 0 and bgcount1 inclusive, using the random function from the random module, and assigns it to the variable bgindex. This line creates a video file clip object by specifying the file name of a random background video and a duration. The file name is constructed using an F string that concatenates bgdir, bgprefix, bgindex, and .mp4. The audio argument is set to false to indicate that the video should not include audio. The subclip method is called to create a new video file clip object that contains only the first script.get duration, seconds of the video. This new object is assigned to the variable background video. This line retrieves the width and height of the background video clip using its size attribute and assigns them to the variables w and h, respectively. This line defines a new function called __createClip that takes 3 arguments: screenshot file, which is the file name of a screenshot image, audio clip, which is an audio file clip object representing the audio for the video clip, and margin size, which is the size of the margin to be added around the screenshot image. This line creates an image clip object from the screenshot image file specified in the screenshot file argument, with a duration equal to the duration of the audio clip argument. The set_position method is called to set the position of the image in the center of the video frame. This line resizes the image clip object by calling its resize method with a width argument equal to the width of the background video, w, minus the margin size argument. The height is automatically adjusted to maintain the aspect ratio of the image. This line sets the audio for the image clip object by calling its set_audio method with the audio clip argument. The resulting object is assigned to the video clip variable. This line sets the frame rate of the video clip object to 1 frame per second, since each frame will represent 1 second of audio. This line returns the video clip object created by the function. Creating video clips. This line prints the message, "Editing clips together," to the console, indicating that the video clips are being edited together. This line creates an empty list called clips, which will be used to store the video clips that are created. This line retrieves the value of the margin size key from the video section of the configuration file, converts it to an integer using the int function, and assigns it to the variable margin size. This line creates a new video clip using the __createClip function and the title screenshot image and audio clip from the script object with the specified margin size. The resulting clip is added to the clips list using its append method. This line starts a for loop that iterates over each comment object in the frames list of the script object. This line creates a new video clip using the __createClip function and the screenshot image and audio clip from the current comment object in the loop with the specified margin size. The resulting clip is added to the clips list using its append method. Merge clips into single track. This line concatenates all the video clips in the clips list using the concatenate_video clips function from the MoviePy.video.compositing.concatenate module. This function takes a list of video clip objects and returns a new video clip object that is the concatenation of all the input clips. The resulting clip is assigned to the content overlay variable. The set_position center method is called on the content overlay object to set its position in the center of the video frame. This method takes a tuple with two strings as an argument, where the first string specifies the horizontal position, either left, center, or right, and the second string specifies the vertical position, either top, center, or bottom. In this case, both strings are set to center to position the video clip in the center of the frame both horizontally and vertically, composing the background and foreground. This line creates a new composite video clip object called final using the composite video clip function from the MoviePy.video.compositing.composite video clip module. The clip's argument is set to a list containing two video clip objects, background video and content overlay. The size argument is set to the size of the background video clip. This function creates a new video clip object that is a composite of the two input clips, with the content overlay clip overlaid on top of the background video clip. This line sets the audio for the final clip to the audio from the content overlay clip by calling it set_audio method with the audio attribute of the content overlay clip. This line sets the duration of the final clip to the duration of the script object, i.e., the length of the audio clip associated with the script. This line sets the frame rate of the final clip to the frame rate of the background video clip by calling it set_FPS method with the FPS attribute of the background video clip. This ensures that the frame rate of the composite clip matches the frame rate of the background video. Writing the output files. This line prints the message, rendering final video, to the console, indicating that the final video is being rendered. This line retrieves the value of the bitrate key from the video section of the configuration file and assigns it to the variable bitrate. This line retrieves the value of the threads key from the video section of the configuration file and assigns it to the variable threads. This line constructs the output file name for the final video by concatenating the output dir variable, which contains the output directory specified in the configuration file, with the file name variable, which contains the file name of the script, and the .mp4 file extension. The resulting string is assigned to the variable output file. This line writes the final clip to a video file using the write_video file method. The output file argument specifies the file name of the output file. The codec argument specifies the video codec to be used, in this case, MPEG-4. The threads argument specifies the number of threads to use for encoding the video. The bitrate argument specifies the target bitrate for the output video. This line prints the message, video completed in elapsed time, to the console, where elapsed time is the difference between the current time and the start time variable, which was set earlier in the script. This message indicates that the video rendering process is complete and reports the elapsed time. Preview in VLC for approval before uploading. This line checks if the preview before upload key in the general section of the configuration file is set to true. If it is, the video will be played back for review before continuing with the upload process. This line retrieves the value of the VLC path key from the general section of the configuration file, which specifies the path to the VLC media player executable. This line creates a new subprocess using the open function from the subprocess module. The first argument is a list containing two elements: VLC path, which is the path to the VLC media player executable, and output file, which is the path to the output video file. This will launch the VLC media player and play back the video file. This line prints the message, "Waiting for video review. Type anything to continue," to the console, indicating that the program is waiting for user input to continue. This line waits for user input from the console. Once the user has typed anything and pressed enter, the program will continue. This line prints the message, "Video is ready to upload," to the console, indicating that the final video has been successfully created and is ready to be uploaded. This line prints the title of the script and the file name of the output video file to the console, indicating the details of the final video. This line records the current time as in-time using the time.time function from the time module. This line calculates the total time taken to create the final video by subtracting the start time value from the end time value, and prints the result to the console. This is a conditional statement that checks whether the script is being run as the main program. If the script is being run as the main program, the create video function is called to create the final video. The __name__ variable is a built-in Python variable that holds the name of the current module. When a Python script is executed, its __name__ variable is set to __main__ to indicate that it is the main program being run. By using this conditional statement, the create video function will only be executed if the script is being run as the main program. If the script is being imported as a module into another Python script, the create video function will not be executed automatically. And we are done. Thanks for watching.